Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss productivity tactics that work for neurodivergent individuals.
Every episode, we interview guests with lived experience of neurodiversity who also have a solid productivity and habit game, and pass the learnings on to you, our wise and benevolent audience.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Joey.
I'm Joey, and I coach creatives to get moving on their most ambitious projects through the power of solid habits and strong focus. I'm also a perpetual student of psychology and perpetually on a quest to a one-armed chin-up.
And I'm Jeremy, a neurospicy software developer turned startup founder, building the Focus Bear app to help people with ADHD and autism thrive at work. My cool party trick is leaving parties early so I can get to sleep in time for my 2-hour-long morning routine. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy, I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. Welcome to episode 112 of the Focus and Chill podcast. I'm thrilled to be joined by Lou Zoanetti today. Lou is the CEO and founder of Brightworks, an early careers consultancy helping organizations attract, develop, and retain emerging talent. With over 15 years of industry experience, Lou is passionate about bridging the gap between young professionals and the world of work. Known for her deep expertise and fresh approach, she helps leading employers to create impactful programs that support Gen Z success. Welcome to the show, Lou.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's great to be here.
Yeah, really good to be able to talk with you. Lou and I met via an autism essay program that was about coming up with ways to improve recruiting and retention of talent. And you had a lot of great ideas there. And we've spoken a few times. And what we're going to talk about today is a combination of your work and also hearing a bit about your own journey with identifying as a neurodivergent person. Could you take us through what that's been like?
Yeah, it's really interesting timing because it's all coming to a particular point at the moment whereby after years of being aware of neurodiversity and having family members who are neurodivergent, and then my son was diagnosed as neurodivergent last year, and I'm right now in the point of diagnosis of ADHD for myself. And in terms of that process, it's been really interesting to think back as to when I figured out that I might be neurodivergent, because obviously I missed all of the opportunities to have this identified as a child, even though there were signs there. I grew up in an environment where potentially, I don't know a lot about it, but potentially girls weren't really considered to have ADHD. And so I remember saying to a friend about 4 years ago, I said to her, I think you've got ADHD, not realizing at the time that I also had it. I could identify it in others in terms of when I saw hyperactive behavior particularly, and I started to educate myself around that. But for myself, I didn't think anything for myself until about last year. My son was diagnosed with autism and he's 10 now. And when he was diagnosed, the pediatrician said he might also have ADHD because he tends to lose concentration sometimes. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never thought of my son having ADHD. I knew that he might have autism, but I'd never really seen signs of ADHD. And it made me think, oh, hang on, maybe I've misunderstood what this is about. And then when I learned a little bit more about the inattentive side, and also the way that hyperactivity can present verbally, particularly for me, I've got verbal hyperactivity more than physical hyperactivity. I was like, oh, hang on, I think I might be there myself. And it's taken about a year, but I'm like right at the point where I'm going through the diagnosis process to get some additional support.
Mm. And does it help you see some of the things in the past that might have been challenging for you that you now understand in retrospect?
Yeah, 100%. It's been quite validating, upsetting, I would say, as well. When the psychologist diagnosed me with ADHD, I'm not a big crier, but I burst into tears at that point because I felt sad for teenage Lou and university Lou, who really struggled, maybe not outwardly, like you couldn't see that I was struggling at school so much. Definitely at university, I was really struggling without the system and support of school. But, the academic environment that I was in at high school, particularly, and into university, I could see so many barriers that I didn't realize I was facing. And the hacks that I had just to try and get the work done was just exhausting, leaving everything to the last minute, like absolutely everything to create pressure and stress and procrastinating. The amount of all-nighters I had in high school, not even in university, when you do sometimes have all-nighters in university, but not because you're studying. But in high school, like I just really struggled to work at anything that required like a long-term project or an essay or an assignment. Exams I did very well in, as you would expect. And so, yeah, I'm kind of sad, but I'm also grateful that, if I'm honest, I didn't necessarily know. I think I didn't have the understanding or the acceptance of neurodiversity that I do now. I would say we've all learned a lot about neurodiversity as a community over the last probably 5 years. And particularly for me, I would consider myself a very neuro-inclusive person. And I don't think I would have been as kind to myself if I'd found out a little bit earlier. So I'm glad I didn't find out till now, but I'm also sad.
Yeah, I can understand that. A lot of, I guess, helpful strategies and a lot of unhelpful strategies that we have to learn or unlearn.
Yeah, exactly. And lots, like I look back and think about the hacks I've had to put in place to be successful, particularly in the work context, because I got into the workplace after barely scraping through uni. But I got into work and then I found my thing where I actually really like this, and I could focus really well at work. And I felt, because there were deadlines quite often in the type of work I did, that suited me. I felt like I had a very clear idea of what I needed to do and when I needed to do it by, and I was rewarded for performance, and that works for my personality type. And it's probably only been in the last couple of years where I'm like, I'm actually just really exhausted with the constant, I guess, framework and scaffolding that I need to give myself to make sure that I'm as effective as I possibly can at work. And that's what's prompted me as well to go, hang on, is there some additional support that I might get through some coaching or medication that might actually help me not to be masking all the time or creating these scaffolds that are going to make me do my work more effectively.
Interesting. I was just thinking to myself, doesn't everyone have to do that? Create all these scaffolds?
Apparently not. Apparently not. I mean, all the people I know do, but that's because they're all neurodivergent. So, but apparently the neurotypicals out there maybe don't have to think about things in this way.
Curse them.
Yeah, exactly. They're boring.
And what sort of changes have come after the recognition and now the diagnosis?
Yeah, well, the changes are coming as well, but I think that I have started to get some coaching specifically on how to progress with some of the more, I guess, challenging parts around running a business that I'm not necessarily attracted to. And also, I guess, had some support from my psychologist around reframing what good looks like and how much I need to work, and sort of giving me permission to delegate a bit better. Quite a lot of my ADHD-ness that's tied up in this like very strong work ethics that I've always had. I've almost got a rule in my head around when I have to work and when I'm allowed to stop working. Like it's at a point where I wouldn't really leave work any time before 6 ever. I mean, I do have parental responsibilities. I have children. I have my husband. I have responsibilities to myself. But generally, when I'm working, I'm right there from 8 to 6. And I don't let myself off the hook. And I think that I need to create some more strategies to have a bit more flexibility about when I'm working and when I'm able to take some time back, particularly as a business owner, where you think people always saying, oh, you must have great flexibility, you run your own business. And I'm like, well, I kind of just work all the time, if that's what you mean. But yeah, I can go to the dentist, without asking anyone's permission. So yeah, I'm not sure if that really answered your question, but I'm certainly hoping that with a bit of coaching and support, I might be able to be a bit kinder to myself as well.
Yeah, I understand that as well. I feel the same because I think there's a combination of it aligning with my special interests, but also maybe for me a sense of inadequacy and then never feeling like it's good enough and I keep on working constantly, which is not necessarily an adaptive coping strategy. So it sounds like
Yeah.
you're detaching from
Similar.
that. Yeah, and in terms of, I guess, looking back at your career, it sounds like you found a niche where the way your brain works really shone. What are some of the key strengths that you bring to the workplace and to your life in general?
Yeah. I mean, I do have a lot of energy, and I find that even though people would describe me as extroverted, and I am extroverted, I do need more downtime as I'm getting older. So that's something I'm trying to be mindful of, not always being on and not always seeking out external energy, creating opportunities. Like I do need to chill a little bit. But yeah, I think that I can bring a lot of energy, and I like to consider myself quite an inclusive person where in work or even in my personal life, I'll look for the people that I would like to include, and I try and think of others to bring them into the circle as much as I possibly can, so people feel included. I think as a business owner, I'm very good at coming up with new ideas, like the creativity tap. When I started my business Brightworks 5 years ago, I originally thought, oh, I'm not creative at all. I don't really know what I'm doing. But it actually turns out I'm extremely creative. I just needed to let myself turn the tap on, and now it's flooding, because I guess my team, that's something I do have to be mindful of, is I'm attracted to new and novel. I'm attracted to innovation, and I want to be constantly what else can we be doing? And I think when you run a business, your team's kind of whoa, we've got to catch up to where you were, and let us get that sort of make that a business as usual kind of process before we start something new. So that's been quite a good lesson in terms of some of the strengths that comes from neurodiversity, but also, acknowledgement of what it's like to work with someone like me as well. I would say that the real power in terms of my neurodiversity, in terms of the strengths, even just as a person, I've really found that working for myself has been a really great. It's been really good for me to run my own business. It's challenging, but my business has grown very quickly in a short space of time. And part of that is because I'm in my hyper focus most of the time. One of my main strengths is building rapport with people really quickly. And because I work in the business development side of my business, I need to get in to understand what challenges people are facing in a very short period of time. And then also show my knowledge so that people trust us to help them do something about it. And that trust is there because they need to pay us to do something about it as well. And so I need to build enough trust and enough of a business case, enough convincing that I'm professional and that my business can do what we say we're going to do, for them to be able to go, yeah, let's go ahead and let's do this work with your business. And I think that's really good for me to be able to take that knowledge and love I have of working with people, and just specifically around remembering people and remembering faces and names, which I feel like I have great skill at, and then being able to convert that into a very successful part of my business, which is having relationships with people and building networks really, really quickly, which is helping, a lot of people struggle with the sales side of their business. That's not my struggle, which is really nice.
Many people will be jealous hearing that.
Well, I mean, it did take a little bit of reframing if it is helpful for people listening. I think when I first started, I was like, I didn't know what I'm like. I don't want to sell to people because that's gross and no one likes to be sold to. And probably the thing that I now think about is I talk to people about what challenges they're facing, and then I help them solve those problems. And I know that we can help them. And because I want to help other people, it means that I'm positioning our solutions, which is sales, but our solutions as solutions to people's problems. And I reposition the sales processes in my mind that way. And that's been very helpful in how I frame conversations, how I feel good about myself when I go to bed at night, because I don't feel like it's a sales conversation. I feel like it's a supportive, helping conversation. So hopefully that helps someone.
Yeah, that's a great reframe. You've talked a little bit about Brightworks. Do you want to talk more about the services that you offer and the type of clients you have?
Yeah, so Brightworks is an early careers consultancy, as you said in the intro. And what that means is we support organizations in setting up and recruiting for and developing their early career talent in their businesses. So for some organizations, that will look like a grad program or an internship program. It might look at taking on apprentices or trainees, cadets, clerks. There's quite a lot in that space. And so essentially, when we talk about early careers, we're really looking at from high school to about 3 to 5 years of work. So really that emerging part of your career, whether you go straight from high school into work or whether you go to university or TAFE and then go into the workplace. So we support organizations with strategies to attract early careers talent. When I first started working in this space 15, 16 years ago, we were talking about Gen Y talent, millennials. We're now, of course, talking about Gen Z talent. So I spend a lot of my time talking about Gen Zs and talking about generational differences and observations that we're seeing in terms of the new generation coming out of school and university into the workplace. But we mainly work with organisations. We don't tend to work with students directly. I have supported a couple of people just out of the, private relationships I've had to help people get a bit of support with their CV. But generally speaking, we're hired by large corporates to run their grad and internship program and also run professional development for their early careers talent.
And is that space changing? Because it seems like there's, in some ways, at least in the tech sector, there seems to be a reduction in the number of roles available, and especially in the number of junior roles. Is there challenges there, or do you see optimism in the sector?
I think there's still life in the sector. I hope so. But I do see it changing. I'm going to be honest. I see a lot of conversations maybe not happening necessarily at a grad program manager level, but certainly with the news that I read at a business owner level or a CEO level. You do see the articles saying no role will be hired unless you can prove that AI can't do it first.
Yeah.
Those sorts of AI first strategies around recruiting new talent. When I've asked the industry, I've asked that question of the graduate industry, we have an amazing organization, like an industry organization. And so we get together really frequently as a industry body. And I've asked that question and generally speaking, people are hiring about the same numbers as they have, but I can see the writing on the wall in terms of hiring differently, hiring different people with different skills, and also maybe hiring less people is coming. So that's a big issue. What does that mean for our early careers talent? Because often the role of generative AI, people say it's like a grad on their first day of work. You've got to give it a good prompt. Sometimes it will go off and do the wrong thing. And you've got to give it I use AI every single day at work, but I also can see where the human part comes in. But yeah, I'm a bit concerned. I'm waffling. I'm a bit concerned, but I don't want to make any grads stressed. They're stressed enough, the poor things, with the cost of living and all the rest. So
yeah, and I guess it's like all professionals that it's not necessarily about everyone being replaced. It's about people who use it in their everyday work, like you, are going to become even more relevant, and people who are unable to keep up are going to struggle a bit. And I noticed that working with interns as well, that there are some that really adopt AI in a sensible way where they're not blindly trusting it, but they're using it to augment what they can achieve. And they can achieve really well. And then others who don't use it or use it poorly and just copy and paste things in, and that it's worse than if a human was involved.
Oh, totally. And actually, one thing that we have seen as a grad industry is a couple of years ago, actually about 10 years ago, we would have said cover letters were dead when it came to graduate recruitment, because it was like there were so many applications you weren't going to read a cover letter there or whatever. Whereas now they're coming back, because a cover letter that's written by a person is actually novel. So it's the way of delineating talent, and sort of, because it's very beige. If you get 1,000 applications to your grad program, and some companies obviously get 10,000 applications, they are all the same. So you need to have ways of shifting and sifting through the talent to understand, well, who really does want to work for your organization and who has the skills or the potential skills and the potential attitude that you want to hire into your organization. So that's another top tip. Write a cover letter. It's a great way of telling your story that's actually outside the confines of a CV, which is fairly structured and formal. Cover letter is a great way to tell someone about who you are. So I see them definitely coming back. And I do see, to your point, I see grads who are working with AI and really comfortable using it confidently in a safe way and checking data when they need to, checking the information that's coming out of the tools that they're using are going to do really well because they're really comfortable using the technology, which is super important.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll come back to productivity tips, but before we do, what do you enjoy doing in your off time with all the flexibility you have as a business owner?
It's funny. I can't really sit and watch TV. Even though I said at the start, I'm not hyperactive in a physical sense. I do find it very hard to relax in terms of watching television or getting immersed into something like that. But I generally enjoy my downtime more doing something. So like going for a walk, I really like walking with, I've got a friend I walk with really regularly and I really enjoy that. I love cooking. I love listening to podcasts. Usually the kids come out and they're like, Mom, Mom. And then I'll like lift my hair and there'll be like an AirPod in there. I'll be like, I'm listening to a podcast. Like, yeah, I can't hear you. I've got two kids. One started high school this year, which has been a big change for our family. And I've got my boy who's, as I said before, he's on the spectrum. He's in grade 4. So I do like to spend time with the kids when they need us to like really give them support and have some really good quality time with them. So yeah, I feel I'm definitely busy, mainly socializing and being a parent, I would say.
Nice. And you're still playing Finska?
Yes, we were obsessed with Finska. We started playing, gosh, I've got a good memory. Yes, but unfortunately, daylight savings ended and it's dark at about just on 6, it's pitch black. So we put it on hold, bring it back out when it gets a bit lighter at night.
Yeah. They need to invent glow-in-the-dark Finska.
Totally, because the kids want to play it every night. And I'm like, gosh, it's quite dark out here. Kids and the mozzies and the... Anyway. So back in summer, we'll be back.
Nice. Okay, so now to productivity tips. Keen to hear about all the scaffolding that you have that helps you to...
Yeah. Okay, here are my productivity tips. First of all, I have lots of ways of structuring my day to be as productive as I possibly can. So that includes, I definitely spend time batching my meetings together so that I really struggle going from meeting to deep work. I think a lot of people do. I don't think that's necessarily just a Lou problem. So I do a lot of like my calendar, I spend quite a lot of time making sure that's optimized so that I'll have ideally a whole day a week where I don't have any meetings and I can really get into some deep work, whether that's a project for a client or whether it's building something new or improving something that we're already doing. So yeah, I'd highly recommend really careful management of calendars. When I do work, when I'm in the office by myself, I usually work in a cave. So I use a tool called Caveday, which is essentially an online Zoom meeting with people throughout the world. There's lots of Americans using it and a few Aussies, but mainly people in America and Europe. And essentially you join this call. There's a facilitator who on the hour asks us to set our intention. What are you going to work on for the next 50 minutes? And you monotask on that particular topic or task for the 50 minutes. And then you kind of come back out of the cave and report back on how you've progressed. And I find that very helpful to work by myself with some other people working by themselves with our cameras on. Another way that's kind of described is body doubling, online body doubling. When I'm working in a cave environment, I also find it really helpful to, yes, I turn off notifications on my phone, but I use an app called Forest, which means that I can't access most of my phone. And it means that the phone is shut down. And in that period, I set a period of time and I just can't access my phone for that time. And I listen to forest music, forest sounds or the rain fall. And it kind of gives me that lo-fi music that I'm looking for or sounds that I'm looking for. The other thing I've started to do with my inbox management that I've found very helpful, I used to find my inbox quite overwhelming with like lots of stuff in there. If it was in there, that meant I had to action something and they all sort of were sitting with the same priority. I now have 3 buckets I put things in. So stuff I've got to do, something that I'm waiting on other people to do, but I still need to like have it top of mind. And then I've got a last one called Read. And I got that from a book called Time Wise. I think it's called by Amanda Imber, who's a productivity specialist. So they're probably my main tips that are working for me right now, and hoping to get even more productive and create more focus for my work. My biggest distraction is something gets hard and I want to reach for my phone or go and eat something. Food and my phone seem to be my thing I want to reach for when things get difficult.
The kryptonite.
Yeah.
When you were saying you work in a cave, it reminded me of the episode we had early on, maybe episode number 9 with Anita Pitzag, who talked about creating architectural productivity by changing where she works depending on the type of work. So if she wants to be focused, then she'll go to this basement area in her house, which is basically like a cave.
Yes,
do you ever do anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at home at the moment, but I have an office that we're a fairly remote business. We do have an office in Melbourne, but I'm the only person who uses it. And so that's been a really, because I've been out on my own as my own boss for over almost 6 years now. And so when I first started, I was at home and then I'd be distracted by home, like washing and all of the stuff. And for some people, that's great. They like the ability to put things on and put something on the stove so they've got it ready for dinner. That does not work for me. It's too distracting. So actually having a physical space I can go to every day to work has been really, really helpful for me. It's really close to my house. It's a 6-minute drive.
Nice.
So often, even if I have to do a little bit of work on the weekend, I might go to the office instead of doing it at home, although I try not to work on the weekend. But physically moving myself to the office has been really, really helpful. And it also means that I can get some energy from the other people that are in the office, but they don't work for my business. So I don't have to talk about work with them. I can get a little bit of energy, like we make a coffee and we can have a bit of a chat. And then I can go to my office, close the door, and I'm like deep working by myself on something. That's my like ideal day. That's the day I had today. I didn't have any meetings. I got to go to the office. I got to say hello and have a bit of a chat with people, but mainly I just worked on this one project that I've been delaying for the whole day. And that was super rewarding to be able to do that.
Awesome. That sounds like a lovely experience of being able to monotask for the whole day.
Monotask. Let's be honest, there were a few distractions here and there, but I did my best. And I was in caves pretty much the whole day, which helped.
Yeah, nice. And the email strategy sounds really sensible as well. Do you ever find that you end up with lots and lots in the to-do bucket?
I've only just started doing it and I've found it good so far. So then, because I can't, one of the suggestions that's often made with inboxes is that you only check it twice a day, or you batch check it in the same way if someone talks about batching meetings. You'd like have certain times that you'd look at it. That's not that practical for me in the type of role I have and with the responsibility I have. So the batching the ability to be able to check my emails and sort of make a decision about how it's categorized is quite good for me, because it does mean then when I do have dedicated time to work on my email, which I pretty much have every day, I'm just going to that one folder, which is to do, which I need to do, rather than, I'm waiting for that person to come back to me before I can blah, 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 blah. So I'm only checking the one that's relating to the thing that's I have to do. Rather than just keeping everything in there that I just need to be across. The other thing I found really helpful from a productivity point of view is we as a business use a tool called ClickUp, which is, I'm sure there's lots of options like this out there, like Monday and Atlassian's probably got other products that they have in terms of project management tools. I found it really helpful. I've actually, after 20 years of working, more than 20 years of working, this year I have finally got rid of my written to-do list. I no longer need to keep a written to-do list because I'm using the technology so effectively now, and I've built it into my routine. The other thing I've done that I found really helpful is the things that I kept moving from when I used to have a paper to-do list, I'd move it over because I wouldn't do it. Or in ClickUp, I'd move it to the next day. I just have deleted them because I'm like, they're not important. If they were, I would have done it. So I've just given myself permission I've deleted a whole heap of emails that I haven't actioned. I've deleted, basically my business is going to implode because I've missed something. No, these are just things that I thought at the time, oh yeah, I'll get to that one day, and then I haven't. And I'm like, it's obviously not important enough. Park it. It'll come back up if it's something needs to happen. So that's been quite powerful.
I love that because especially with all the ideas, I struggle with that. I've got a whole in tray full of ideas that I've been putting down, and I've realized I can't actually get all of these done. And even if I give it to my team, they can't do all of the things that I have down there. They're already struggling with the 10% of the ideas that I've shared with them.
Yeah, exactly. So. And if it's really needed, like the 10% that you have shared with them, there's a reason that they're the ones you shared, and the ones that are in your in tray, they'll float back up if it's important. I've got a friend who's got ADHD as well. And the way she's got quite significant hyperactivity and struggles a lot with the remembering of things. And it's funny, I said, oh, how do you know what to do at work? Like what task to do next? She goes, I just wait for the urgent things to find me. That's her strategy. I just wait. And if it's urgent, it will find me and then I'll do it. I'm like, wow, you are so successful in your job and that is how you're managing it. I'm feeling fine. I have a to-do list and I'm not just waiting. So yeah, that's the other strategy. Wait for the fire to start and then put it out.
Yeah, I feel like that's how I operated. But I feel that also creates a burden for other people because it means that other people are having to chase me and say, Jeremy, can you please do this? And I don't really want to be that person who's relying on other people as my accommodation. I was at a conference once where someone was saying, look, it's really important that neurodivergent people have accommodations, but it's not cool to make other people be your accommodation without getting agreement from them.
And it is a really good point because that's probably the other bit we haven't talked about. I've been with my husband for 25 years, not quite 25, almost 25 years. We've been married for 17 years. We got married obviously quite young. And that's one of the other things that I've realized with my diagnosis is the pressure I put on him to pick up some of the slack that I've missed out on. Not so much that stuff like remembering to do things, because over time I've created, I have to write it down that moment. If I remember, I've got to take that thing to work. Well, I've got to write that down. I'll set myself a reminder. But more just the steady stuff. Like my husband makes the kids' lunches every single day. He does the dishes every single night. So some of the basics that I struggle with, I don't struggle with other stuff that's in my routine, but some of that sort of parenting stuff that's every single day, he's kind of gone, look, you struggle with this we're those parents, so it's not my responsibility, but he's kind of worked out the bits that if that doesn't happen, the kids will not have food. So how about I do that bit? And just naturally over time, I've become more of the person that is doing more of the mental load sort of stuff, which is fine because he's doing most of the physical stuff, like most of the house cleaning, cooking, kids stuff. And I've been able to take on, we've got this bill to pay, and because I am better at that sort of stuff. So that's been good in our partnership to have someone who, even without knowing I had ADHD, was like, she is not good at this. Well, I will do this thing. So that's really helpful.
That sounds very mutual, a nice partnership.
Yeah. He also brings me a coffee in bed every morning. So, I mean, you can't really complain about that. We're very lucky. But yes, I mean, I think it's just being with someone for a long time, you kind of you iron out some of this stuff over the years. Yeah.
Is there anything that you've heard people talk about in terms of in productivity books or out there on LinkedIn, things like that doesn't work for you? Strategies that you find hard to follow?
Yeah, I mean, I do find it hard to eat the frog.
Yeah.
So you often have like either, you've got a big task. I do find it hard to start new things. I find it hard to break down big tasks. It's not that it's a hack that doesn't work for me because I don't try it. Maybe it is a hack that doesn't work for me. I really have to break things down a bit more than that. And the other thing is, sometimes I'm not great at reflecting back on what I've achieved. So if I do an exercise where I might go, well, this is what I did today, I don't feel anything from doing that. Like I don't feel any more energy or reward because I tick these things off my list. I just feel like that's not something that helps me feel good about what I've achieved because I think about all the stuff I haven't done. I kind of don't, I just don't think like in the future too much and in the past too much, I guess, in the work context. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's really hacks that I haven't adopted, but more just, like a lot of people, I struggle to break tasks down. I struggle with blank piece of paper. I mean, I did a writing degree, which is nuts. It was horrible because everything was a blank piece of paper. Plus it was the early 2000s. There was nothing. There was nothing.
Yeah.
You couldn't do anything.
No ChatGPT?
Nothing. You were writing everything from scratch. There was not even something you could get an example of from somewhere else. Maybe a textbook might have something, but from a creative writing point of view, it was not a good choice for me to study. I actually studied PR, which I didn't realize was a writing course. I thought it was a talking course, which I'm really good at talking. So I thought, oh, that'd be great. I'll just talk. But then when I first day, I was like, they asked us, why did you do this course? And all these people were like, oh, I wanted to be a journalist or I want to be an author, but this was a good chance for me to be able to write every day. And I'm like, write every day? I hate writing. What am I doing? Yeah, anyway, so that probably explains why I hated uni.
Yeah. No, the blank page is difficult. And I think there's only been one person on the show who said that they actually enjoy the eat that frog principle. It's the most common answer to that question.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think, no, I want to waste my time doing 5 useless things so I feel good. So I've achieved that thing and then I move on and then I still don't want to eat the frog. I don't know.
But then when you use ClickUp, does that help with breaking the big tasks down? Say with your day-to-day, you were in the cave for the majority of the day. How did you get yourself to work on that large project and break it down into the small chunks?
Yeah, well, I did hyper-focus on a particular calculator that I was building. So I knew so it's not new product, but we have products that we sell or services that we sell. And I was using ChatGPT and doing a bit of coding to build a new pricing calculator. So I got into it. And actually the way I got into it, even though I had quite a big task to do, was I set my timer on my phone in the forest app for 10 minutes so that by the time the forest noise stopped, I was already into the task. I didn't really notice the timer had stopped and that I was like on my way. So that was quite helpful today to kind of get into that. But in a normal work situation where I do have meetings, I tend to, if there is a task there, I tend to break it down into smaller chunks in ClickUp. And then I might assign, what I found that doesn't work is if I have a task that's quite big and I assign that to myself today or someone in my team assigned it to me to do, if it's really big, I just won't do it. I need to have it broken down, not in tiny chunks, but in milestone chunks for me to achieve the thing. Otherwise, I'll put it off. And then when I actually do get to it, eventually I'll be like, oh, that didn't actually take me that long at all. But I found that I put it off for so long because of I think, oh, I've got to be in this mood to do it, or it's going to require this brain energy or whatever. Like I make it bigger than it is. And so I do need to, those tasks that seem big, I do need to break them down. And I found that quite helpful.
Yeah.
I think my team as well, like I've got a really close team. Like quite a lot of my colleagues have worked with me for a while now. And I think that we all really understand how each other works. And I feel like the way we communicate to each other, the way we respectfully ask for help, the way that we point out that someone hasn't done something when they should have, I don't think that's different to me to someone who is neurotypical. I think that's just like colleagues working together and, saying, oh, have you done that thing yet? No, well, I've got capacity. I could help with that. Or you need to do that thing, get it done.
Yeah.
It's kind of pretty normal conversation in our business. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that seems like a good approach, and it flips the idea of eat that frog on its head, because the idea is that the task is so unsavory that you don't want to go near it. And with that, the calculated task, it sounds like you found a way to make it really interesting, and then it's much easier to actually start.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Well, speaking of all this work, I'm feeling quite tired, so let's take a quick break and we'll be back in a few minutes. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. Staying on top of tasks is easier than ever with Focus Bear's new To-Dos feature. Record a voice note describing what you need to do, and Focus Bear's AI will turn it into a structured set of subtasks and automatically prioritize it for you. You can also take a photo of a paper to-do list and the AI will work its magic. I'd love for you to try it. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. All right, we're back from our break. We've hydrated and stretched and now ready to hear about routines. What do your mornings look like? And is it better with older kids? Because I'm expecting my first child and I expect my routine will be completely smashed, but hopefully give me some hope that it will get better as they get older.
It definitely gets better. I can guarantee you that. In fact, even from newborn stage to 3 months in, it markedly improves in terms of routine and you feeling comfortable about the change to routine. So it doesn't take too long to get better because the start is so bad that then the small improvement that you get just feels really good. But yeah, I mean, my routine's actually changed this year in the morning. It's changed quite a few. I've had different periods of my life where I've done different things in the morning. I used to go to the gym 5 days a week. Every single day I'd be at the gym, which I think my body would really love it if I was doing that now. That's sort of fallen out of my routine since COVID. But, this year, one of the big changes that's happened in the morning is that the whole family is now getting up earlier because my daughter started high school and that has meant that she is up earlier. And so therefore the whole house is awake and there's a lot of activity in the morning. I'm really lucky. Nathan, my husband, generally takes care of the mornings for me. I do take my son to school 2 days a week, but like I said, he does quite a lot of support in the morning to get us all ready. Not me. I don't need to be dressed, but he does quite a lot by him. I do need to be dressed. Let me assure you, I'm wearing clothes, but I don't need his support to do that. So yeah, so on the days where I'm going straight into the office, I do try and go in early. I find that the period of time between 7:30 and 9, I actually get the most stuff done. I love that period now. I'm really enjoying being the first. I'm usually the first in the office. I like that process of coming in, setting myself up for the day, getting a coffee, getting my bottle of water sorted, getting in, planning out my day, and then actually achieving a few things before maybe my first meeting comes on board so that I'm not walking straight into work into a 9 o'clock meeting. So that's a really good routine that works well for me. The days where I take my son to school, again, I'll be honest, I don't love that I can't get in at 7:30. I generally might do something at home and then take him to school and go to the office, but it's not my preference. I think if I'm a bit routine orientated, so I'd prefer just to be able to get up and go. But I think a lot of parents would feel that way. It's just part of the disruption that these little dictators have in our lives. I don't know whether we have them, but we did. And so now I've just got to be a parent sometimes. Rude.
Yeah. Until they can make their own lunches and take themselves off to their locations.
That's right. So we're there with our daughter, not quite making her own lunches, but she's off, up, out, onto the school bus, doing her own thing. And that's very good for us to see her grow up and be able to be a bit more independent.
Wonderful. And how about the other side of the spectrum? I remember you saying that you're getting a lot more sleep than you did in the past.
Yeah. I had a big operation last year and I realized I actually really do need to rest, and that sleep is something that I have had for years been limiting. I probably was getting, particularly when I worked in the corporate world before I started my business, I was probably getting about 6 hours sleep a night and it wasn't enough for me. For me personally, I do need a good 9-10 hours sleep a night. And I find that I need to prioritize that in order to feel good and to feel like I don't have brain fog the next day and I can feel mentally ready for the day. One of the things I have noticed in running my own business is that I'm cognitively exhausted. So I can finish a day or a week of work and I'm like, I feel tired, not physically, but my brain feels tired. It feels like I'm making lots of decisions and that the decisions can be sometimes high stakes. And I'm the point, the top of the triangle at work in many cases. So, I've not got a great team around me and I have a 2IC who handles most things. Sometimes the buck does stop with me. And so I need to be the one that makes that final decision. And that's a responsibility that I take seriously, but also it does take quite a bit out of me to be making decisions like that throughout the week. Generally speaking, I sleep really well at night, generally because I'm quite tired. I do take melatonin to help me go to sleep, but then I generally am asleep for a really good 9 hours before getting up the next day. So yeah, I highly recommend if you think you don't need sleep, just give yourself a period where you just try and go to bed earlier. And you might find that actually your body really does need the sleep that you think you're coping fine without.
And do you go to sleep like 9:30 p.m. and then you don't have an alarm and you wake up when your body is ready to wake up?
Not so much. I would say I would have start to wind down for the evening about 8:30. Not always. It helps that I'm not watching television. I think if you watch TV, and I've had periods obviously where I've watched shows, and you can get into the next episode, that kind of cycle of binge watching. But like 8:30, because we have children, kind of starting to get them off to bed. I'm reading a book series with my son at the moment that we're both really enjoying. So that's really good for unwinding with him and kind of getting us both ready for sleep. Generally speaking, I'll try and be in bed by that 9:15, 9:00, 9:15. Generally speaking, I'll turn my light off at 9:30. Like I'll try and go to sleep around 9:30 if I can. I don't wake up naturally necessarily every morning, but often I do because I'm not the first person to get up. Because like I said, my husband gets up and makes me that cup of coffee. So when that coffee lands, I'm like, that's when I wake up. But I do also have an alarm as well to help me get up in the morning.
Backup alarm. Nice.
Backup alarm, yeah.
Well, it sounds like a really well-rounded schedule. And
Yeah, probably the only thing that's missing is a bit more exercise. That's one thing I need to just think about. I've started working earlier this year. That's been really good, but just giving myself permission to finish earlier to do some exercise as opposed to just continuing my old habit of working till 6. So then I end up working from 7:30 till 6, pretty much, most days of the week. And so then when am I doing any exercise, particularly because I want to exercise outside and it's dark and I've got to be safe and all those sorts of things. So that's my goal. That's my thing I need to improve on.
Can you do walking meetings with your internal meetings?
Definitely. I actually didn't even think of it. I caught up with someone from another business and they said, can we do a walking meeting? I was like, I thought that was even an option. So I've done it a little bit, but yeah, it's something I definitely could do more of, 100%. Just thinking of it at the time, I'm not great at that.
Yeah, I quite often do it and people find it surprising, but I listen better as well.
Yeah, when I was on the phone a lot as a teenager, once we got the cordless phone, of course, because I was old enough to have the phone attached to the wall and mum and dad listening and my brothers listening to everything I said. But once we got a cordless phone, I would be pacing around my bedroom, pace. So I do like walking while I'm talking on the phone particularly. So yeah, I probably should just think about it a little bit more.
Nice. Well, it's been really interesting hearing about all your scaffolding and the strategies. There's a lot that we can all take away from it. If people would like to connect with you, where's the best place for them to find you online?
The best place would be on LinkedIn for me because it's all about the work. So you can find me at Lou Zoanetti, Zoanetti, or if you type in Lou Z, I'm pretty much the only person who will come up. At Brightworks is business. That's the other thing. I'd love it if you could give the business a follow. So Brightworks Early Careers Consultancy on LinkedIn. We do post some interesting stuff and that's the best way to get in touch.
Wonderful. Do you have any final words or asks for our audience?
I don't have any asks, but the final word I would say is it's been lovely to meet you through the project we worked on, Jeremy, and I'm really interested to hear more about the projects that you're working on. It's been really nice to be on this podcast. When you first asked me, I was like, but I'm not neurodivergent yet. I don't know that I definitely am. And since we booked this in and now I've realized that, yes, 100%, I have ADHD and I'm just about to get, the final step of that process. So yeah, I feel good. I feel like I've created a really lovely life and I just want to stop and take stock of that every now and again, because I can forget to pay attention to what's going on in the moment. So that's also been a goal of mine, to just take stock, just stop for a minute, acknowledge where you're at, and then like get in and live a great life.
We could all benefit from some more reflection like that.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Lou. We'll wrap the show with that. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.